Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brian Barrera here, CEO for LC Innovation. Yeah, guys, I want to share some stuff with you. Football season is on the horizon. So excited for football season. As you guys know, I'm obsessed with business and sports, and I'm obsessed with finding out how successful sports franchises become successful, how they keep their consistency in being successful, how they build dynasties. And I like to dissect that and turn it into business models. I know some people are probably like, yeah, I don't watch football, I don't watch baseball, but trust me, stick with me as I put everything that I learn into a context where it's applicable to businesses, right? Everything that I do is that way. But what's really cool right now is football season's coming up, and I know a lot of people that are going to be watching this right now are going to be football enthusiasts or people that follow football, people that like fantasy football. So we're going to have some fun, like I always do. I like having a lot of fun. You've seen a lot of the posts that I've done with movies and Robert De Niro, Spike Lee, Tom Cruise, and how I intertwine that with the employee of the month. And then I've also done the GOAT debate on how we don't appreciate employees. And I feel like we don't appreciate the greatest of all time because they're so good that they make being the best in the league like second nature to them, right? Because they're so incredible that it looks easy to them. So we take them for granted. I put that with being a employee of the month multiple times or winning employee of the year that, people go and recognize because they make things so easy. They make tough things so easy. But right now, I did my fantasy football draft, and I didn't get a good tight end. I'm sorry. That sounds kind of unfair. I didn't get a good tight end when it comes to scoring in fantasy football. So I ended up drafting tight end towards the end because I'm a best available player drafter. I like to let the board fall to me. Who players who drop, I snag them up, and then I do a wheeling deal after. Right, so I'm best available player, and then wherever I lack, if I have a lot of people, a lot of players in a certain position. If I have a lot of running backs, well, then I'll use that to my leverage and I'll trade them for wide receivers and vice versa. I've won fantasy football leagues a couple times, but I've never actually won my own league that's been going on for 17 years. So don't take my word. Don't take my word too far here, because like I said, I've never won my league. But again, my league is not a PPR league. It's non PPR. It's low scoring. So it's a really tough league. I think we've only had two people that have won two championships each. Everyone else has just won one except for me. But yeah, so the tight end position, right? I'm thinking to myself, man, there's some legends out there. How can I find their attributes, their antecedents? How can I find their characteristics, their traits, and how can that allow me to draft the best tight end at the end of the draft? Because that's the way the board fell to me, right? Once again, BAP, best available player. If someone drops and they're a great player that I think is going to get a lot of touchdowns, I usually snag them up. And then, like I said, later on, when I find the position that I have a plethora of players for, I'll usually start trading that, start willing and dealing. I trade a lot. I love to trade. It's like my favorite thing to do. But anyways, once again, I want to keep these short. This one will be short. This will be way less than 15 minutes. But so I started thinking about Tony Gonzalez, with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Falcons. I started thinking about Rob Gronkowski, who followed Brady from the Patriots to the Tampa Bay Bucks and won a few titles with him. Same about George Kittle. He's been in the Super Bowl a couple times. Travis Kelce obviously has five Super Bowl appearances, and they've won three championships. Shannon Sharp won. I believe Shannon Sharp won three championships, two with the Broncos and one with the Ravens. I could be wrong on that one. And then there's Kyle Pitts. No, I'm sorry. Shannon Sharp did not win with the Broncos. You know what? Let me look that up. Actually, I'll look it up later. Shannon Sharp, Kyle Pitts. So yeah, Kyle Pitts. Man, they were really talking high about Kyle Pitts. He was going to come in and tear it up. His rookie season, he got 1,000 yards. I'm at the end of my draft. I was like at pick 140, 150, and Kyle Pitts was still there. Like I said, he's gone. I think the first season of when he first started 4 years ago, I think he went top 15, top 20, and he's gone like pretty high picks in the couple years after that. But he hasn't performed well. His first year he had 1,000 yards, and I believe his second and his third year he got six. No, his second year he got 400 yards. Then in his third and fourth year he got like 600 yards each year, 600 plus, and now he's on his fifth year. But he was there and I drafted him. But I was thinking, why is he falling off? Like, what has happened with Kyle Pitts? Probably a great player, but I wanted to compare him to the legends, right? To the legends and what they were good at. So I started thinking, I was like, okay, I know that tight ends are great route runners. They're great at route running. They're the best route runners out there. They're not really fast, but they do have speed, right? Then I start thinking about yards after catch. They're very Kelce breaks tackles. Kelce's really good at that. Tony Gonzalez was good at that. George Kittle's good at that. They extend plays. They'll make a 5 yard catch into a 15, 20 yard catch, right? And then I start thinking about, okay, and I'm going to get to the 5 tool employee framework at the end because, again, I know a lot of football people are going to watch this and they probably haven't even heard of my 5 tool employee framework. And they probably hate baseball. They love football, so they're probably not going to hear about it. So I'm going to leave that towards the end. But then we have the drop percentage. They hardly drop the ball. I remember when Travis Kelce, we've all seen a lot of Travis Kelce the last 5, 6 years because he's made the Super Bowl so much. When he drops a pass, you're shocked. You're like, whoa, can't believe he dropped that. Then blocking, what keeps them in the game? Tight ends, the legends, they're in the game 24/7 because they're very good blockers. They have to be in the game because they have to block. And when the play blows up, they go from blocking to catching, right? And then there's arm strength. Arm strength, to me, arm strength is influence, right? Arm strength is influence. How far do you spread that influence? Arm strength is, a right fielder hitting the cutoff guy when he knows that he can hit third base, but he's a cutoff guy because it's the smarter play. And, they live to fight another day instead of going for third base and the ball flying all over the place and getting past the third baseman and the runner going home, right? They know when to hit the cutoff guy. They know when to gun it. They know when to go for it. And then I thought about the shortstop, the shortstop tagging people, the way they make a double play, how they flip the ball, how they rocket it, whatever the case. But, that's arm strength. Arm strength is knowing how far your influence can go, right? We talk about that all the time. So this is how I interpret it. Arm strength to me, right? Influence, knowing how far you can throw the ball, knowing when not to throw it that far, knowing when to hit the cutoff guy, all that good stuff. To me, that's an instinct. It's an instinct. You have that power. Power is already there. In this case, it's yards after catch, but you have that power, you have that strength, but it's that influence. And to me, I noticed that it's a natural tendency. It's just like hand-eye coordination, right? It's which can also go towards being agile, which is speed, cognitive thinking, which we've talked about but let's just keep it, let's not get into the 5 tool. Let's talk about actually being into football. To me, the arm strength for that, since they don't throw the ball, but they have influence, is following the quarterback. See, it says QB sync right there, clutch plays, good QB connection. To me, what influence is for a tight end, the 5 tool employee framework, the 5 tool tight end, the 5 tool tight end, to me, that natural tendency is actually following the QB. Eyes. So they talk about security blankets, right? Safety blankets. That's what we call good tight ends, safety blankets. They're a safety blanket for their quarterback. But what if you're on the other side of the field and your quarterback is scrambling and they're on the other side? Is that a safety blanket? No, what we mean by safety blanket, and a lot of tight ends have this. They might not block that well. They might have a high drop percentage. They might not get yards after catch. However, they probably play the game because they just might be following the QB all around the place. This is why I think Patrick Mahomes is so amazing and Travis Kelce, their partnership is so amazing because Mahomes, Brady's gift was getting rid of the ball in less than 3 seconds, but he had pinpoint accuracy, right? Peyton Manning, he was so good at long passes up the middle, slants, long slants, fading out, going in, up the middle, whatever. Peyton Manning was so good at long slants. That's what I got. I saw a lot of the Colts because I'm a Jaguar fan. Unfortunately, I'm a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. But I saw a lot of Peyton Manning because we played him twice a year for like 15 years, right? But Peyton Manning to me was so good at long slants and fade outs. So good at it. That's why he could bring his team back, from 10 points down with 3 minutes left to go because he was so good at those long slant passes. But Brady is so precise. He gets rid of the ball in 3 seconds. Mahomes, let's go back to Mahomes. Mahomes, that guy knows where the line of scrimmage is. Doesn't matter what side he's on. When he scrambles, he can go to the far side, the visitor side. He goes to the home side, the sidelines. He goes back and forth, but he never crosses that line of scrimmage. To me, that's his gift. He always knows where he's at. And when you watch Travis Kelce play with him, Travis Kelce's the only player following him. So because Travis Kelce is that real security blanket, in my opinion, it made Tyreek Hill a few years back expendable. So they were able to get rid of him because they know that as long as they have that safety blanket who's literally watching Mahomes' eyes the whole time, following him around the sideline, which is Kelce. The other second gift that Mahomes had, in regards to Andy Reid, is Andy Reid knows him so well. He knows what players he plays so well with, and that's the mark of a great coach. Belichick did that with Brady, and we'll get into that in a separate segment. How Belichick got Wes Welker and Julian Edelman and Chris Hogan and Danny Amendola, and he got all these short wide receivers. We're going to get into their five-tool wide receiver. We're going to get into why they're so good at what they do. But let's jump back to Andy Reid. Andy Reid gets unbelievable vertical threats for Patrick Mahomes. He's won Super Bowls with them without Tyreek Hill. He just has Travis Kelce as a security blanket. But if you notice, when he has deep vertical threats, because he knows how to zigzag and he knows how to check it down to Pacheco or to Kareem Hunt, or Kelce being the security blanket, Mahomes always, he likes to go, not for the deep ball, but he likes to go for 20, 30-yard passes with his deep vertical routes, right? That's what makes it. But that's what I'm talking about. Kelce's that security blanket. And I started noticing that a lot of these legendary tight ends are exactly that. Elite route runners. They're not fast. They're not fast. They're quick, but they're elite route runners. Tony Gonzalez, look at this. I went through all this. Power, yards after catch. They're strong. They're reliable. They're explosive. Hitting for average in the five-tool baseball player. The five-tool employee framework is hitting for average is the third one. But in this case, we're going to substitute that for drop percentage. They do not drop the ball often. And then the next one's going to be blocking, which is fielding. Fielding is taking care of the company. Fielding is quality. Fielding is quoting the right way. Quoting the right way. Fielding is also looking at contracts, negotiating the agreements, negotiating quotes, all that stuff. That's blocking, saving your company. Fielding, the defense when you're playing baseball, but it's blocking. They have to be good blockers to stay on the field 24/7. And when a play is botched, they go from blocking to becoming a receiver, and they're following the QB around. And the last one that I already mentioned, I kind of harped on that one a little bit, and that was following the QB with their eyes, right? So that's the five tools. So I looked at Tony Gonzalez. Look at this: moderate, strong, excellent, moderate, very high. Ain't nothing that he's low on. Rob Gronkowski, moderate, very high, excellent, high, very high. High blockers. Look at this stuff. George Kittle, very high, very good blocker. He has very good QB connection. Very high when it comes to dynamic, very high when it powers yards after catch. All these guys are strong, reliable, explosive, dynamic in the areas that matter, the yards after catch. Let's look at Travis Kelce, right? When it comes to speed, route running, they're not fast, very moderate. They weren't top of their class when it came to the combine when they got drafted. They were in the pack, but they weren't on top of the pack. Then you got very high when it comes to power, yards after catch. Excellent at drop percentage, barely drops. I remember how shocked we were when he dropped it. Blocking, moderate, but if you notice, blocking is very high or moderate, and then very high when it comes to following the QB. Now we look at Kyle Pitts. Elite route runner, super high. Yards after catch, moderate. Everyone else is high. Everyone else is high. And it's because he's such a good route runner. Excellent when it comes to dropping, doesn't drop the ball often. Limited blocking, very low, and then limited QB follow. It could be because they've had different quarterbacks. They've had Kirk Cousins, but they had another quarterback when he first got to the league. And now they have Michael Penix. But that's what I saw. He has elite route running. He's fast. He's quick. But these other areas, he doesn't do well on it. He's not a very good blocker. He's not very good at following the QB. And yards after catch, it's the only one that's low out of all these guys. Right? So that's it. This is how you can use the five-tool employee framework. And the five-tool employee framework, like I said, is just like the five-tool baseball player, but we did it in a business sense. You can do this for your employees. You can do it for drafts. I did it for drafts. I did it for running backs and wide receivers as well. But you can do this for so many things. And that's why I made it, because it's made for any type of business, any type of industry. I'm an industrial organizational psychologist. I can go from business to business, industry to industry, and I can figure it out. But this is the main tool I'm using that I created. I'm using this tool for everything because it really finds the strengths and weaknesses of all your employees and all your draft candidates for your fantasy football draft. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.